Respect is one of the most misunderstood forces in human psychology. Most people spend years trying to earn it, yet some individuals seem to receive it almost instantly. They enter a conversation, a meeting, or even a room full of strangers, and within moments people begin listening more carefully, paying closer attention, and treating them differently. The surprising part is that this reaction has very little to do with money, physical strength, social status, or even intelligence. In fact, many highly talented people struggle to gain respect, while others with average skills naturally command it wherever they go. The reason lies deep inside the way the human mind judges confidence, authority, and personal value. Psychologists have discovered that our brains make powerful decisions about other people within seconds. Before anyone has a chance to prove their abilities, the mind is already searching for signals that reveal whether a person deserves attention or can simply be ignored. Most people unknowingly send the wrong signals. They talk too much, explain too much, seek approval, and react too quickly. As a result, they accidentally lower their own value in the eyes of others without realizing it. Meanwhile, the people who earn the most respect often follow a completely different approach. It is subtle, it is powerful, and once you understand it, you will start noticing it everywhere. What makes this even more fascinating is that many of the world's most influential leaders, negotiators, and high performers have quietly used this psychological principle for decades, yet very few people ever learn about it. It is not taught in school. It is rarely discussed openly. And because it appears so simple on the surface, most people underestimate its effect. But when used correctly, it can completely change the way others respond to you in conversations, disagreements, social situations, and even professional environments. In this video, you will discover the psychology trick that can make people respect you almost instantly. You will learn why the human brain responds so strongly to this behavior, why confident people naturally use it without thinking, and how it can make you appear more calm, powerful, and emotionally strong. You will also learn the mistakes that destroy respect, the hidden signals people send during everyday conversations, and why one small change in your behavior can create a completely different impression. Most importantly, stay until the end because the final lesson reveals the biggest misunderstanding people have about respect, and once you understand it, you may never approach conversations the same way again. Welcome to the channel where we explore the hidden psychology behind human behavior, influence, confidence, and success. If you enjoy learning powerful psychological insights that can improve your relationships and help you better understand the people around you, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upcoming video. Now, let's uncover the psychology trick that makes people respect you instantly. This pattern appears in everyday life. A person shares an opinion and then spends the next 5 minutes explaining why they are right. Another person makes a decision but immediately starts defending it before anyone even questions it. Someone receives mild criticism and instantly begins listing reasons why they should not be criticized. These reactions seem harmless, but they reveal something important. They reveal uncertainty. They communicate that a person's confidence depends on the agreement of others. People who constantly seek approval often believe they are making themselves look stronger. In reality, they are handing over their confidence to everyone around them. Their emotional state becomes dependent on acceptance. If people agree with them, they feel good. If people disagree, they feel uncomfortable. Because of this, they become trapped in a cycle of proving themselves over and over again. The human mind notices these signals more than most people realize. We naturally observe behavior that reveals confidence and behavior that reveals insecurity. Someone who repeatedly seeks validation sends a message without speaking directly. The message is simple. Please confirm that I am good enough. Most people never say these words out loud, but their actions communicate the same thing. This is why over-explaining can be so damaging. When people feel secure in their decisions, they usually explain what is necessary and then move forward. When people feel uncertain, they often continue talking long after their point has been made. They add more details. They provide more justifications. They keep searching for signs of agreement. Ironically, every additional explanation can weaken the impact of the original message. Consider two people facing the same situation. Both make a decision at work. The first person spends several minutes explaining every reason behind the choice. The second person calmly explains the main reason and stops. Many people automatically assume the second person is more confident, even when both individuals possess the same level of knowledge. The difference is not intelligence. The difference is how they communicate certainty. Another common mistake is fearing disagreement. Many people treat disagreement as a threat. They become uncomfortable the moment someone challenges their opinion. Their voice changes, their speech becomes faster. They rush to defend themselves. Yet disagreement is a normal part of human interaction. Every confident person understands this. Not everyone will agree with every idea. Not everyone will share the same perspective. Respect does not come from avoiding disagreement. It comes from remaining steady when disagreement appears. Think about the people you naturally respect. They are usually not the ones who panic when challenged. They do not collapse under criticism. They do not desperately fight for approval. They can listen to opposing views without losing emotional control. This ability creates a powerful impression because emotional stability is often mistaken for strength, and in many situations it truly is a form of strength. The deeper psychological truth is that people tend to value what appears valuable. Confidence suggests value. Desperation suggests the opposite. When someone constantly chases respect, they unintentionally communicate that they do not already possess it. This creates a contradiction. The harder they try to gain respect, the more difficult it becomes to receive. Many people spend years focusing on the wrong goal. They try to convince others that they deserve respect. But respect rarely grows from convincing. It grows from behavior. It grows from emotional control. It grows from the ability to remain grounded regardless of what others think. This brings us to one of the most powerful psychological shifts a person can make. Instead of chasing approval, they stop treating approval as necessary. Instead of filling every moment with words, they become comfortable with pauses. Instead of reacting instantly, they allow themselves time to think. Instead of proving their value, they let their behavior communicate it naturally. This is where a powerful psychology trick begins to appear. It is simple, but its effect can be remarkable. Most people underestimate it because it does not look dramatic. There are no special phrases, no secret manipulations, no complicated strategies. Yet it changes the way others perceive you almost immediately. The trick is becoming comfortable with silence. Most people are uncomfortable with silence. The moment a conversation slows down, they rush to fill the empty space. A brief pause feels awkward. A few seconds of quiet feels uncomfortable. Because of this, they start talking even when they have nothing important to say. They add unnecessary words. They repeat themselves. They search for anything that can remove the discomfort. What makes this interesting is that silence itself is not the problem. The problem is the anxiety people feel during silence. They fear being judged. They fear appearing awkward. They fear that others might think they are uninteresting. As a result, they begin speaking simply to escape the discomfort. Confident people respond differently. They do not feel pressured to fill every pause. They understand that silence is a natural part of communication. They can sit with it. They can think during it. They can allow a conversation to breathe without rushing to control every second. This creates a completely different impression. When someone remains calm during silence, people often assume that person possesses confidence. The reason is simple. Individuals who feel secure do not constantly seek reassurance. They do not need to prove their worth every moment. They are comfortable allowing silence to exist because they are comfortable with themselves. Notice how respected individuals often speak. They rarely rush. They rarely appear desperate to be heard. Their words come with intention. They take their time. They pause before responding. These small behaviors communicate emotional control, and emotional control is one of the strongest signals of confidence. Silence also creates space for thinking. Many people react immediately to everything they hear. A comment appears and they answer instantly. A criticism appears and they defend themselves immediately. A challenge appears and they respond without reflection. This habit often leads to emotional reactions rather than thoughtful responses. A comfortable pause changes everything. It creates a gap between stimulus and reaction. Inside that gap exists choice. Instead of being controlled by emotions, a person gains the ability to decide how they want to respond. This alone can dramatically change how others perceive them. Psychologists have long observed that calm behavior is frequently associated with competence and authority. People naturally trust individuals who appear composed under pressure. When someone remains steady while others become emotional, observers often assume that person possesses greater confidence, experience, or expertise. Of course, silence by itself is not magic. Remaining quiet without purpose does not automatically create respect. The power comes from what silence communicates. It communicates patience. It communicates self-control. It communicates that a person does not feel compelled to perform for approval. And this is where silence becomes surprisingly powerful. One reason silence creates authority is that it changes the value of words. When someone talks constantly, every sentence competes with the previous one. Important points become mixed with unnecessary ones. Eventually, listeners stop paying close attention because they assume another sentence is always coming. A person who speaks less often creates the opposite effect. Their words carry more weight because they are used selectively. People begin listening more carefully. They know each statement was chosen intentionally. This naturally increases influence. Human attention works in interesting ways. Scarcity creates value. When something becomes less available, people pay more attention to it. The same principle often applies to communication. Someone who speaks thoughtfully and selectively often appears more credible than someone who talks endlessly. Silence also creates curiosity. The human brain dislikes uncertainty. When people encounter someone who remains calm and composed, they begin searching for explanations. They wonder what that person is thinking. They wonder why that person seems unaffected. They become curious. Curiosity is powerful because attention follows curiosity. The more curious people become, the more closely they observe. Without realizing it, they begin assigning greater importance to the person who captured their attention. This effect appears in countless social situations. During conversations, meetings, negotiations, and even casual interactions, people often focus on the individual who appears the least desperate for attention. Calmness stands out because it is rare. In a world filled with constant noise, composure becomes memorable. Perhaps the most important benefit of comfortable silence is that it demonstrates emotional strength. Emotional strength does not mean suppressing feelings. It means controlling reactions. It means choosing responses instead of being controlled by impulses. Most people react quickly when emotions become involved. Anger appears and they immediately express it. Criticism appears and they immediately defend themselves. Pressure appears and they immediately become anxious. These reactions are understandable, but they also reveal vulnerability. Silence creates a protective space between emotion and action. A person who pauses before responding shows that emotions do not control them. They control themselves. This is one of the clearest signals of inner strength. People who master this skill become harder to manipulate. Emotional manipulation depends on provoking reactions. If someone can trigger your anger, fear, or insecurity, they gain influence over your behavior. But when you remain calm, that influence weakens. The ability to pause removes much of the power others have over your emotions. As this skill develops, people begin noticing changes in the way others respond. Conversations become different. Reactions become different. The need to prove oneself starts fading. Confidence becomes less about what others think and more about how you carry yourself. And this becomes even more powerful during disagreements. The true power of silence becomes most visible during conflict. Anyone can appear calm when everything is going well. Anyone can look confident when people agree with them. The real test comes when pressure enters the conversation. It comes when someone challenges your opinion, questions your decision, criticizes your actions, or tries to overpower you with their words. These are the moments when respect is either gained or lost. Most people do not lose respect because they are wrong. They lose respect because of how they react when they feel threatened. Think about what usually happens when someone feels attacked. The reaction is almost automatic. Their heart rate increases, their mind begins racing, they feel an urgent need to defend themselves. Before they fully understand what was said, they are already preparing a response. Their voice becomes faster, their explanations become longer, their emotions begin taking control. The conversation stops being about understanding and starts becoming about winning. This reaction is extremely common because the human brain is designed to protect itself. When criticism appears, the brain often treats it as a threat. It wants to eliminate that threat as quickly as possible. The fastest way to do that seems to be speaking immediately. Unfortunately, immediate reactions are rarely the strongest reactions. A person who responds instantly is often responding emotionally rather than intelligently. They are speaking from discomfort. They are speaking from a need to protect their image. They are speaking because silence feels dangerous. But respected people understand something important. A few seconds of silence are not dangerous. In fact, those few seconds can completely change the outcome of a conversation. When someone challenges them, they pause. When someone criticizes them, they pause. When someone attempts to dominate the discussion, they pause. This pause may last only a few seconds, but psychologically, it creates a powerful effect. First, it shows emotional control. It demonstrates that the person is not being controlled by the situation. They are choosing their response instead of reacting automatically. Second, it gives them time to think. Instead of speaking from emotion, they can speak from clarity. Many people underestimate how powerful this looks from the outside. Observers often pay less attention to the criticism itself and more attention to the reaction. If one person becomes emotional while the other remains calm, most people instinctively see the calm individual as stronger. Even if both people have valid arguments, emotional control often influences perception more than logic. This happens because calmness suggests confidence. Confidence suggests certainty, and certainty creates authority. People naturally trust those who appear comfortable under pressure. It sends a signal that says, I do not need to panic because I am secure in myself. Notice how experienced leaders often behave during difficult conversations. They rarely rush, they rarely interrupt, they rarely become defensive at the first sign of disagreement. Instead, they listen, they absorb information, they allow silence to exist. Then they respond with purpose. The response itself may not even be complicated. Sometimes a simple sentence delivered calmly is far more powerful than a long emotional speech. This is because confidence is often measured by what a person does not feel forced to do. A confident person does not feel forced to defend every detail. They do not feel forced to win every argument. They do not feel forced to prove their intelligence every few minutes. Imagine two individuals facing criticism in a meeting. The first immediately begins explaining why the criticism is unfair. They talk continuously. They interrupt. They defend every point. The second person listens quietly. They take a moment to think. Then they calmly address the most important issue without becoming emotional. Even before the discussion ends, most observers will already have formed impressions about both individuals. One appears reactive, the other appears composed. This difference becomes even more important when dealing with dominant personalities. Some people try to control conversations by speaking louder, faster, or more aggressively than everyone else. Their goal is often to create pressure. They want others to become uncomfortable. They want others to react emotionally. Many people fall directly into this trap. They raise their voice. They increase their speed. They mirror the other person's energy. Suddenly, both individuals are competing for control. The conversation becomes chaotic. A calm pause can completely disrupt this pattern. Instead of matching aggression with aggression, silence introduces stability. It forces the conversation to slow down. It removes emotional fuel from the interaction. The person attempting to dominate often expects resistance. What they do not expect is calmness. Calmness is difficult to fight against because it refuses to participate in emotional chaos. The person remains present, but they are not emotionally captured by the situation. This often shifts the balance of power in subtle but important ways. The psychological effect is fascinating. When one person remains composed under pressure, observers frequently interpret that composure as strength. This does not mean the calm person is always correct. It means human beings naturally associate emotional control with confidence, maturity, and competence. The ability to remain calm during conflict is one reason certain individuals earn respect so quickly. People notice who loses control and who maintains it. They notice who reacts and who responds. They notice who is ruled by emotion and who can manage it. Over time, this skill creates a reputation. Others begin expecting stability from that person. They know disagreements will not immediately become emotional battles. They know criticism will not produce dramatic reactions. They know conversations can remain productive even under pressure. As valuable as this ability is, there is another hidden factor that separates respected people from everyone else. It has less to do with conflict and more to do with communication itself. Many people assume respect comes from saying more. They believe the more they speak, the more influence they gain. They believe constant communication increases their importance. Yet in many situations, the opposite is true. Respect often grows when words carry weight. Think about the difference between someone who talks continuously and someone who speaks only when necessary. The first person may provide endless information. They may comment on every topic. They may fill every silence. They may share every opinion that enters their mind. At first, this can seem impressive, but over time, something interesting happens. Their words begin losing impact. Because they speak so often, people stop paying close attention. Listeners assume another sentence is always coming. Attention decreases because there is no scarcity. Now compare this to someone who speaks selectively. They listen more than they talk. They choose their moments carefully. When they do speak, their words are direct and intentional. People often remember this second person far more clearly. Why? Because scarcity increases value. This principle exists throughout human psychology. Rare things attract attention. Limited things appear more valuable. Things that are constantly available often become overlooked. The same principle applies to communication. When words are used carefully, they become more meaningful. People begin paying closer attention because they know every sentence serves a purpose. There is no unnecessary noise. There is no endless explanation. There is simply communication that matters. This does not mean becoming silent all the time. It does not mean refusing to participate in conversations. It means understanding that not every thought requires expression. Not every opinion requires sharing. Not every situation requires immediate commentary. Many people damage their influence because they speak before thinking. They speak to remove silence. They speak to gain attention. They speak because they feel uncomfortable when they are not contributing. Yet much of what they say adds little value. Respected individuals often operate differently. They understand that communication is not measured by quantity. It is measured by quality. A short sentence delivered with confidence can have more impact than a 10-minute explanation. A thoughtful observation can be remembered longer than dozens of random comments. A carefully chosen response can influence people more than endless talking. This is why many highly respected individuals appear quieter than average. Not because they lack ideas, not because they are shy, but because they understand the value of restraint. They know that words gain power when they are not wasted. This brings us to an important misunderstanding. Whenever people hear advice about silence, they sometimes assume it means becoming quiet, passive, or withdrawn. They picture someone sitting silently in every conversation, avoiding interaction and saying very little. That is not what psychological silence means. Silence is not shyness. A shy person often remains quiet because of fear. They may worry about judgment. They may fear making mistakes. They may avoid speaking because they lack confidence. Psychological silence is completely different. It comes from choice rather than fear. A confident person can speak whenever necessary. They simply do not feel obligated to speak constantly. Silence is also not passiveness. Passive people avoid expressing themselves even when they should. They allow others to make every decision. They avoid setting boundaries. They struggle to communicate their needs. Controlled silence is not passive at all. In fact, it often requires more confidence than constant talking. A person chooses when to speak and when to remain silent based on purpose rather than emotion. Silence is not weakness. Silence is not fear. Silence is not surrender. True silence is controlled communication. It is the ability to understand when speaking creates value and when speaking creates noise. It is knowing when a response is necessary and when it is not. It is knowing when a conversation needs your voice and when it needs your attention. It is knowing when to make your point and when to stop talking after the point has already been made. Many people continue speaking because they feel compelled to convince everyone. Respected individuals often understand that once the message has been delivered clearly, more words may actually weaken it. Controlled communication also allows other people to reveal themselves. This is one of the least understood advantages of silence. Most people focus entirely on expressing themselves. They spend so much time talking that they never fully